Good morning. A lot of people have been messaging me and asking me um, my opinion on what happened yesterday. So for those of you who do not know, I live in Quebec, Canada, and we have been on social distancing directives. Like we're not allowed to go out. Well, we're allowed to go outside, but we're supposed to be social distancing, and the schools have been closed. And this has been since I believe March 13th. So we have been social distancing, and yesterday, the Quebec government basically said that they are reopening the elementary schools starting May 11th with the schools outside of the Greater Montreal area, and May 19th, the other elementary schools will be opening, while high schools will be closed until September and will be opening in the fall. So a lot of people have been asking me my opinion on this, and what I'm going to be doing with my child, because as most of you know, I have two kids. One's 20. She's in CEGEP. She's been doing distance education. And sorry, I'm just a light there. Sorry. And my little one is in elementary school. So they're asking me, what are you doing? And what's my take on all of this? So I immediately had a lot of questions. One thing that's important to note is that the government has said that it's not mandatory for you to send your child to school. The elementary schools are opening, but they will be providing resources for people who've decided not to send their kids, which will be, the majority. Like, I'm not sending my child, and I can speak from my perspective and why I'm not sending my child. So, as the head of my household, I will make a decision whether to send my child to school or not. And I have to think about what's best for my family and myself. And what's best for my family and myself is that my little one not go to school. As you guys know from my previous post, I have respiratory issues. I have asthma along with other issues, and I have a heart condition and a circulation problem where if I were to have extra trouble breathing, like it would be tough for me. So I know that I can't get COVID-19. Like I know that it would be a very big fight and I'd probably lose that battle just because of my lung capacity and everything right now. So for me, the best thing to do is to keep my child away from the public, because you have to think about it like this. Can you afford to get it? If you think that you have it in you to fight that kind of fight, then fine, you make that decision for your family, right? But if you know that you can't get it, then you don't send your kids. But I can only speak from my perspective because there's so many different perspectives that people are not paying attention to. Am I disappointed in the government for doing this? Yes, because although they have said that it's a choice, right, for us parents to send our kids to school, to elementary school, most teachers don't have a choice in elementary school. So if you're young and you're healthy, you're expected to go to work during a scary time where the numbers in Montreal are still not good enough for, in my opinion, to send people out there and to go about life regularly. The numbers are still high. There's still a lot of cases. People are still dying. So we parents have been given a choice, but more or less a healthy young teacher has not been given a choice, and they have to go back out to work. And there are a lot of primary school teachers or elementary school teachers who are scared, and rightfully so. So within 3 weeks, they have to get the classroom ready. So they'll be going back out to work by May 4th to get their classrooms ready for this social distancing in elementary school, which for me, the government said that there will be a maximum of 15 kids in a class. That's all they're allowing. And the kids are to practice social distancing while they're in school. Now, I do not teach elementary school. I teach high school. But I know, because I have kids and I've worked in a daycare before, I know that kids are the most unhygienic group of people. Kids pick their noses. Kids do go to the bathroom, forget to wash their hands. These are things that you're teaching them at that age. Did you wash your hands? Did you wash your hands? Did you wash your hands? Stop picking your nose. Stop picking your nose. You could be the most clean person as a parent, but your kid will be picking their nose and eating it. So for me, I was like, this is the group you decided to go out and restart the restart life with the primary school kids. I was concerned about that. But then obviously in my head I know that this is economically driven. This is because they want to start making the money in the economy again, and this group of children are the ones that can't self-educate, they can't watch themselves, they need care. So by opening daycares and elementary schools, now parents can go back out to work. Okay? Now, again, you make the decision that's best for you and your family. I am going to speak from my perspective. I have no reason to send my child to school. I work from home, right? I work for a school. I work for Loyola High School. We've been doing distance education, and we're a secondary high school, a secondary school. So we're not opening until September. So we are working from home. So I don't have the need for childcare. I'm home. Second of all, our environment at home is healthy in the sense that I am mentally well. We have food to eat, and our living conditions are pretty good. We have ample amount of space. The kids in my house, they have their own space, and we have space to do remote distance. I mean, to do distance education. We have the space for it. I have the resources. And I myself, I am a teacher. So I am comfortable with keeping my daughter home. And that's the decision that I make for my family. But we always have to think about the other side of the story. There are families. I spoke about this in my last live. There was a woman who basically at this point they think that she stabbed her two kids and then she had self-inflicted wounds. One of the children, 11 years old, died. The other one, I believe is 5 years old, is in stable condition but in the hospital. And this, and I'm not saying that this case, this is what it is, but this is stuff that is happening because of this social distancing. There are parents who are at home, and they're not mentally well, and they were not mentally well before this. And something like this for someone who is not mentally well will tip them over and will give them, will make them totally insane. And people were like, oh my God, she doesn't deserve to be a parent. How could you do that to your kid? And I said it before, mental illnesses, it's a real thing. It's not that it's something she sat there and thought about and whatever in her right mind, right? This is something like you won't be able to understand unless you suffer with a mental issue. So the reality of it is, there are parents at home who are suffering with mental illnesses, and having a child at home driving you nuts all day is pushing a lot of parents over the edge. So I'm asking you to not judge people for the decisions that they make, because again, as the head of your household, as parents, you make decisions that are best for your family. And maybe it is that sending a child to school and a parent being able to come down and mentally have a break, maybe that would save a child's life, right? But by no means do I think this is a good idea, opening the schools at this point. Our numbers are still too high, right? I think that waiting a little bit longer would have been better, because everybody's saying, well, there's going to be a second wave now. And it's inevitable that regardless of when we open back things, there would be a second wave. But as I mentioned before in one of my other posts, it's, like when you look at the sea and there's waves of different heights, that is time sensitive. How the quicker we open back things is the higher the wave will be. There will be more cases in the second wave. And I don't think they thought about everybody in this. They thought about this in terms of the economy, right? This is it. Like, let's make money. Let's get these people back out to work. I don't think they considered the healthcare system and the essential workers. Yes, our numbers are now mellowing out and things are kind of not on the high anymore. Can you give these people the chance to breathe? Can you give the nurses and the doctors and the people caring for people, can you give them a moment to catch themselves? I saw yesterday that one of a top doctor, a ER doctor in New York City, killed herself after telling her family how devastating it is to work in the hospital during this pandemic, and she killed herself. This is a top ER doctor. So yes, there's going to be a second wave and it's inevitable, blah 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 blah, but if you wait a little bit longer, these healthcare professionals will have a chance to just breathe a little bit. Give them a break. So 1 month, like the schools are closing in June. Just leave it at that. And if it is that there are families who need the break, then make emergency centers or something like that that they can go to, and you can watch their kids, and you have like a handful of teachers or people who are volunteering. But to open the schools and then tell parents it's your choice and put the ball in the court, you're our government. We're expecting you to have our best interests at hand and look at all the aspects outside of the economy. 1 month is not going to like make a big difference in terms of the economy. But it's going to make a big difference in terms of people's health, right? So there's a lot of things to think about. Like there's a lot of things that me and my friends have been talking about, and we're just really concerned about it. Like when Valerie Laplante said, "Oh, we're gonna put the Bixi bikes out." I'm saying to myself, "You're putting Bixi bikes out. This is a communal service where people can borrow bikes all over the city and drop them everywhere." That's disgusting. Like at this time with germs and all that stuff, and us being mindful of that stuff, you're gonna do something like that. So I realize that a lot of the decisions are economically driven, and I am a mom, I'm a teacher, I am a community leader, and I care about people. And so I look at things from another aspect, but it's not my job to look at the economy and all that stuff, but I can only speak for my family. So I'm also saying this is it's terrible for me, in my opinion, but again, you've been given the choice. People have been given the choice. And I just ask that you don't judge people for the decisions that they make for their family. Not everybody's dealt the same cards, so you play the cards that you've been dealt. I've been dealt a good set of cards that I can work from home, and I have what I need to teach my kid. I also have a friend who has a son with special needs, and he says that it's hard for him and his wife because their child has special needs and they are not equipped nor trained to teach their son and to do him justice in educating him from home. And he's missing certain physio and stuff like that that is just killing his spirit. And it's hard for these parents to watch. So if they make the decision that they're going to send their child to school at least 1 day or 2 days a week, that's their decision and that's what's best for their family. So you make the decision that's best for your family and leave it at that, right? Are we disappointed in the government because could they have waited an extra month? Yes. And then I have other questions. Okay, so now that you're reopening the schools, you currently said that it's safe enough, okay, to send our kids back out to school with at least 15 other kids in the class. So then that must mean that today they're going to be announcing that they're going to be lifting certain social distancing directives and allowing little gatherings. You have to be telling me that that's what's going to happen, because you're telling me that some kids can't see their grandparents. I can't see my best friend and her son who live 5 minutes from me. I can't see them, but I can send my kids to school with 15 kids in the class, and then how many other kids in the whole entire school? So that doesn't make sense. So I know that today that has to be the announcement that the Quebec government's going to make, that they're lifting the you have to have the same address as people and whatever. So you got to be telling me that I could put somebody in my SUV in the third row, we social distance, and we can go to the groceries together to save gas and stuff like that. I can help people out like that. That is definitely what you're saying. That's what you're implying, that it's safe enough to do stuff like that, right? So I'm waiting to see what they're saying tonight or this afternoon about that, because there's no way they could prohibit people from seeing their family but allow kids to go to school. Because then we know the government has real issues. We already know that there's issues. But now we know like you're just being ridiculous. So I'm asking you also to be mindful of some parents are sitting there complaining, I'm not sending my kids. Well, you don't have to. The government didn't say it was mandatory. And they're providing means for people who choose to keep their kids at home. They're getting devices and internet, so you don't have to. But think about the teachers who don't have the choice, right? Think about the teachers who have to go to work or they might possibly lose their job. Think about those teachers. Think about them before you start complaining about like your situation where you happily get to stay home with your child. Like you can make that choice. And think about the healthcare workers who will have to deal with this new second wave that comes in because they keep on saying, the little kids are resilient and, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but kids don't live by themselves, right? Like they shouldn't be living by themselves, right? They live with adults, right? And if the adults are working and the kids are going to school, and how easy is it for a kid to social distance? Is nearly impossible. So if the kids are interacting with other kids and possibly picking up, and then you're going to work, there's going to be a second wave there, right? So think about how scary it is for teachers that are going back out into the workforce with little germy kids. And like again, think about the essential workers who will have to deal with this second wave and they've barely caught their breath, right? So that's my take on all of this. Again, the government safeguarded their tail by saying, "Oh, but it's not mandatory, it's not obligatory. You can keep your kids at home." I'm just like, you just safeguarded your tail because what you're doing is messed up. Because um, another thing I wanted to comment about. It's funny. Last week when they were talking about, oh, they're gonna reopen schools in May. We're gonna reopen schools in May. Everybody was like, yeah, okay, but the Quebec government is going to do what they said is that they're going to open up schools in the areas that are not that don't have high cases, Quebec first, and everybody's like, they're definitely not gonna open Montreal first. By the time they get to us, it'll be September. Well, the 1 week where Quebec is opening May 11th, the elementary school, and and then Montreal's opening May 19th. I was like, what is this 1 week difference? Is that going to really make a difference? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. I was like, what is the reasoning behind the 1 week? Like, I get maybe 2 weeks. Like, you put those kids back and see how that happens. Because remember, there's the 2 week incubation period or whatever they want to call it, where if you've been in contact with it and you've contracted it within 2 weeks, you should see symptoms. Not even 2 weeks. They didn't stagger it by 2 weeks. 1 week. What is the whole 1 week? Like what is what is that gonna do? Anyways, that was like, wow, that doesn't make any sense. And then even that whole idea, well, and we all know that people can be asymptomatic and carry the the virus. So that's another thing. Like when it's like, people are like, well, we have to reopen the economy. What is an ideal time? Like we have to do it eventually. We have to go back to normal. This is true. This is true, but again, like I said, give the essential workers, nurses, doctors, and the people caring for sick people and whatnot, give them a break. And ideally, it would be best for us to go back when there's a vaccination. I'm not saying, you know what I mean? Like, that would be the ideal time when there's a vaccine against this. But again, that's going to take a lot of time. But whatever. That's my 2 cents on all of this. Take care.